Great to have you with us. Now, first story. Police in the Ashanti region have begun investigations into the threats issued on the life of multimedia journalist Erastus Asaridonko by Asin Central MP Kennedy Ohene-Agyapong. A statement signed by the Deputy Regional Commander DCOP David Ajimai-Ajim acknowledged receipt of an official complaint filed by the multimedia group asking for a thorough investigation and protection for Erastus and promised to periodically communicate their findings. It reads, and that's what you have on your screen, the Ashanti Region Police Command has received a formal complaint and petition from Multimedia Group against Honorable Kennedy Ohene-Agyapong MP for Asin Central constituency for threats allegedly made against their journalist, Mr. Erastus Asaridonko. Now, the petition is receiving attention and being investigated by the Regional Crime Officer, and any further developments will be communicated. The Police Regional Command would like to assure the general public that we are very aware and alive to our constitutional mandate and responsibility. We shall endeavor to protect each and every person in the region, as well as their property, and we remain committed to this cause. Let us allow the police to investigate the matter and not to inflame passions and make comments that would ultimately mar the investigations. We also remind the general public of their civic responsibilities and implore each and every citizen to report to the police anything they witness, having knowledge about and have heard that will assist in the investigation of any case or cases. So please come forward and provide such information through our hotlines 18555-191 and 0299-202240. Please accept the felicitations of the command, and it's signed by the Deputy Regional Commander for the Ashanti region, Mr. David Ajimai-Ajim, Deputy Commissioner of Police. Let's explore this reaction a bit further. Security analyst Adib Sani has joined us via Zoom. Mr. Sani, how swift is this action in your view from the police?
It should go beyond just issuing statements. I mean, in as much as I welcome it, immediately the information got to them from Multimedia. By the way, let me first of all congratulate Multimedia for also being swift in requesting security for the journalist, because it is a blatant threat. I mean, you cannot go to sleep with that. It is dangerous. It might inspire someone somewhere to harm the journalist, because certainly it's not the first time. But I'm hoping that quickly the police would provide security to the journalists, because it's within the mandate of the police to prevent and detect crime, to apprehend offenders, and to maintain public order and the safety of persons and property. It is a constitutional right also. It is not a privilege. I mean, it's a social contract kind of thing. You know, when we're in the university political science, they say that, yes, we give politicians our mandate and they intend protect us. They ensure our safety. So it is a good call, but I'm hoping that quickly the police will spring to action so we don't have yet another Ahmed Swale case in our hands.
There are those who say that the action by the multimedia group may be exaggerated and that Erastus may not be in any danger at all.
I mean, any Ghanaian who thinks that way, I'm sure is missing the point. You remember the Capitol Hill riots in the US. Even though we didn't have Donald Trump saying categorically, go and invade and cause mayhem and beat up officers, the manner in which he spoke sought to embolden, sought to inspire people who are inspired by his person. So there are a lot of people, of course, who would admire Honorable Kennedy Agyapong, who would follow what he says, are always listening to him. And when he speaks this way, it might inspire those people to take action. And it is certainly not the first time. And you see, a threat is a threat. Some time ago, there was this video making rounds of a pastor in the US threatening his wife right before her brother that if I don't kill her, call me fake. I don't know whether you remember that video.
And she died eventually.
And in the end, what happened? She died. I mean, even very, very, very minor threats even sometimes becomes fatal within the domestic environment. But if they really listen carefully to the honorable, I mean, the statements were reckless, it was irresponsible, and if nothing is done about it, it will be yet another disaster waiting to happen. And mind you, Daniel, in the past few years, our performance on the World Press Freedom Rankings is not been progressive at all. We keep descending down the ladder due to the number of cases involving the deaths of journalists, the assaults on journalists, and nobody seems to be doing anything about it. So we really need to be very, very careful, not just Erastus Asaridonko, but it's like everybody is blaming the media, even when you listened to the officers who went before the committee. And I'm surprised some of the committee members seem to rationalize in the form of, oh, the media is sensational. Why? Sensational for reporting the truth. These are videos. This is not based on hearsay. So you can imagine if the media wasn't there, I'm sure someone somewhere would have said, oh, it was a battle situation. The protesters had G3 rifles. So we thank God for the media. We thank God for social media. And I pray you don't stop doing your work, but at the same time, you have to take practical measures to ensure your safety, not just the person of Erastus Asaridonko, even for you in the studio, because there's a general sentiment among some few persons. They don't seem to be very happy with the way you report the truth. And I think it's important you take that into consideration in ensuring your safety.
Now, Mr. Japon is currently carrying out his duties as chairman of the Defense and Interior Committee, even though he's been dragged before Parliament's Privileges Committee for these very comments. What do you make of this particular development?
Well, when Honorable Pene Markin was appointed the chairman of Defense and Interior, I was like, okay, let's wait to see. I would miss the Sete Champon days. I mean, descends down to our level, educates us on major security happenings. He was a good listener. This time around, I'm wondering what the way forward is. But I think that he should be made to stand down for investigations to be conducted. Possibly a replacement, because trust me, considering the personality traits, the disposition of Honorable Kennedy Japan, I wonder whether the Defense and Interior is really a place for him. I think the leadership would really have to take a closer look at that and possibly get a new person, because one of the things that comes to play is secrecy. You need to maintain utmost secrecy because you are privy to very classified information, and this is a man who would give you 1,000 cities and the next minute sit on radio and tell the whole world that he's giving you that 1,000 cities. So I can imagine that's my major concern. I mean, I can imagine to what extent he can't keep that secret. And if you are the chairperson of Defense and Interior, yet you endanger the lives of journalists, then I wonder what really you are doing there. So that is really a major source of worry to me as a security practitioner. So I would have suggested that they made him to stand down, stand aside, then the investigations will be conducted and possibly a new chairperson would be appointed. There are a number of other people, like, Honorable James Akaga, even though he's with the opposition, is quite experienced in that regard and wouldn't make a bad chairperson at all.
Adam Sani, thank you very much for joining us this morning on News Desk.
My pleasure.
Let's stay with the story a bit further. In Parliament's Privileges Committee is expected to come out with clear timelines to indicate how it intends to go about its probe into comments made by the Asin Central MP, Kennedy Japon. The committee is seeking to determine whether his comment that Love FM's Erastus Asare-Donkor ought to be beaten mercilessly brings the image of Parliament into disrepute. Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin referred the matter to the committee following a request by Tamale North MP Alhassan Sohuyini. But Deputy Majority Leader Alex Pene Markin is raising red flags about the directive, insisting it sets a bad precedent. He tells Barker Wilson.
As a house, we've established our own conventions and practices. Again, we are bound by our rules, standing orders, and that the precedence of application of such nature requires that when the motion is moved, it has to be seconded. Members are given the opportunity to express their views on it. This is not what happened. And I disagreed with Mr. Speaker on the ruling he made.
So you think he erred, clearly?
I said that I disagree with Mr. Speaker on the ruling he made. That notwithstanding, that is Mr. Speaker's decision. I believe that procedural propriety is very essential in any inquiry, in any referral. The position is that when all men find a man's hand in a till, his guilt must be proven. So I am a student of parliamentary jurisprudence, and there's no way I would want to go on a path other than the new known path of parliamentary jurisprudence. That is why I felt that the approach was not consistent with the standing orders.
Now, those who have said that clearly the videos are there, we've heard the voice clearly, so there was nothing about procedure. Clearly, individuals petitioned Parliament, and the Speaker took the right decision.
We are talking about procedure. Did the Speaker see the video? Did the Honourable Member even procure the video to mount his argument? You see, sometimes we create these impressions about certain things, and at the end of the day, it comes back to haunt us. We shouldn't create an Okotodi and a budget situation here. All right? We shouldn't create an Okotodi and a budget. A member of Parliament has his own right to make applications to Speaker. Speaker must determine it. It's been determined. Let us see the next step. But I have made my point that let's follow due process. Nobody will recommend that if a person is caught stealing, he should be stoned to death. You know that. Even if every eye saw him stealing, the law requires due process. So, would a person be wrong if he invites an authority to ensure due process in any matter? I don't think so.
Mr. Pene Markin says the communications officer for the National Democratic Congress, NDC, Sami Jemfi, should also be dragged before the Privileges Committee.
That even though the rule under which he came, he is not sure whether Honorable Kennedy Japan said the thing here. He is relying on 27. That was when, Mr. Speaker, yes, and 73, yes. That is when I rose to draw Mr. Speaker's attention that there is some procedural impropriety. And as a student of parliamentary jurisprudence, I am drawing Mr. Speaker's attention. That notwithstanding, I respect his rule. I am saying, Mr. Speaker, on the strength of that ruling and fortified by that ruling, which looks at substance. What is the substance? A member of the National Democratic Congress, the National Communication Officer, has used certain words against Mr. Speaker, members of this House, which words amount to contempt, which words undermine our work and authority. Let's look at 30H of our rules book. Mr. Speaker, this is what 30H says. the following acts or conduct shall constitute a breach of privilege or contempt of Parliament. They are disjointive. It is either a privilege matter or contempt. His contention is that the behavior, the utterances, the writings of Mr. Sami Gyamfi is in contempt of Parliament. And he relies on 38 reads. I quote, publication of false, perverted, misleading, distorted, fabricated, or scandalous report, books or libels reflecting on the proceedings in Parliament. What proceedings was Mr. Sami Gyamfi referring to? The appointment committee's report, which report approved of certain members, and he had occasion to question Mr. Speaker. So all that our colleague is saying is that, Mr. Speaker, don't be a judge in this matter. Simply refer it to the appropriate committee to look at the merit or otherwise. Mr. Speaker, this is what was done in the Kennedy Japan case. Mr. Speaker said, look, let's give it to the committee. Let the committee now validate the statement of Kennedy Japan. And I was even saying that Mr. Suhini should have made a prima facie case.
Let's stay with the Parliamentary Select Committee on Defence and Interior, which has been on a fact-finding mission into circumstances leading the war military brutality. On July 1, 86 soldiers went on rampage and brutalized some residents of the Wa Township. The committee, led by its chairman Kennedy Japan, called on the Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Salih in Wa. JoyNews' Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam reports.
The members of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Defence and Interior were met on arrival at the Wa Airport by members of the Upper West Regional Security Council. They later rolled into the Wa Township and to the office of the Upper West Regional Coordinating Council, where they called on the Upper West Regional Minister, Dr. Hafiz bin Salih. Chairman of the committee, as a North Member of Parliament, Kennedy Japan, in a brief remark, stated that they are not in the region to accuse anybody, but it is to get the facts of what transpired on July 1, Republic Day, when 86 young soldiers went on the rampage and allegedly brutalized some residents of Wa.
Incident that happened in Wa. So we are here to find out what actually happened. We are not here to accuse anybody, but to find out what actually happened and report back to Parliament. We wanted to come, I think, on Monday, but I hear the President visited the region. So the regional minister was not going to make it. We decided to postpone it till today.
He said the committee will not be granting interviews to the media as it has a tendency to prejudice the issue.
It's a fact finding, so we cannot be granting interviews. With all due respect, we cannot be granting interviews to the media, because if we do that, we will destroy the facts and information, because some may interpret it differently. Reported speech, it might be different. So we plead with you that we are not disrespecting, but we want to make sure we get all the facts before we even comment.
Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Salih, on his part, thanked members of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Defence and Interior for the visit. Dr. bin Salih said the Upper West Regional Coordinating Council will do all it can to support them to succeed in their mission.
But let me indicate that preceding your coming, the Military High Command had earlier on sent a 4-member committee to come and then investigate the matter. They left yesterday and you are here today. The police are also doing their own investigation. I believe strongly that at the end of it all, the 3 reports will be put together, and at least anybody who misconducted himself or herself will be found out. There is no way that anybody can be covered.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam.
Let's take you straight to the Western region because the Jasehine of the Apinto traditional area near Takwa, who was reported missing a few days after a threat was laid on his life, has been found. Dr. Nana Adakwa Bediako III went missing on July 14 after a suspect who threatened him was granted bail a day before. And Athalia Kwansa, our correspondent in the Western region, has been following this story for us. She joins us with updates. And Athalia, it must be very good news for the people of Takwa. Right, Ina, can you hear me? Right, and Athalia Kwansa, our correspondent, will soon be joining us with those updates. The visuals you see on your screen are those victorious and joyous celebrations when Dr. Nana Adakwa Bediako III, Jasehine of Takwa, the traditional area is Apinto near Takwa, was found. Now, after he went missing, police and national security officers launched a nationwide search for him, but on Thursday night, his family said the chief had been located. Let's go to Athalia Kwansa now. Ina, describe that scene for us.
Yes, Daniel, so I was saying that it is indeed a good news for the people of Takwa. Yesterday in the evening, they were all rejoicing because we all saw some pictures how they had besieged the Takwa police command, and then the whole atmosphere surrounding his missing after 3 days of the threat. So when he came, according to police, he's fine. He's doing so well. Yesterday, the Jasehine broke his coming back to the Takwa municipality on Prime with Israel Lai. So that's when we got to know that the chief has been found and he's coming back. I have been speaking to the police PRO of the Western Region, DSP Olivia Arabina Deko, and this is what she says.
July, in the evening around 7 p.m., one Nana Teku and one Francis Nyako, who is alleged to be the driver of the Apinto Jasehine, Nana Bediako III, that he went with him to the bank to transact a business. When the driver went into the bank and came out, he couldn't find his boss in the vehicle. And he found out that the keys to the vehicle was in the car. His 2 iPhones were also in the car. So they came to make a report. They said they searched all over around Takwa. They were not seeing him. So they made a missing person report to the police. The police also didn't sit down. They took the matter up and started their own investigations. They had certain leads. They went there, they couldn't find him. So yesterday around 4 p.m., police had information that Nana was coming from Takrady. And that one of his chiefs called that they were going to bring him to the police station. So he came to the police station with about 4 of his chiefs. And indeed, he was looking well, he was okay. We tried to find out exactly what happened. And according to him, he was very tired. And that this morning, he will be interviewed later to know exactly what happened, where he went. Was it actually a missing person case? Was it a stage kidnap or was it a kidnapping incident? So we are still investigating the issue. Thursday, there was a threatening issue made by one Anakra against Nana Bediako. And the case was supposed to go to court yesterday.
And Athalia, has he said where he went to?
Yes, Daniel, he hasn't said where he went. The police says this morning they have invited him over, so it is today that he would give details as to where he went. Yesterday when he came, when they asked him, he said he was so tired he couldn't give any information. So, Daniel, we promise our viewers that as and when he speaks and then give details to the police, we would also bring it to you.
What about this man who threatened him? What's the latest in that regard?
Yes, so he is with the police. Police is still investigating. Apparently, DSP Olivia Rabnaduku says the bank manager for Abbey National was also invited for investigation, and the driver of the Jase Hene, who apparently said he couldn't find the Jase Hene in his car, was also called on and then being interrogated for further investigation. So whatever comes out of this particular case, Daniel, we would let our viewers know.
Thank you very much, Nathalia Kwanzaa, for joining us with those updates. Now, the businessman that government has been speaking with in respect of the purchase of Sputnik V vaccines has written to the health minister to request that the deal is abrogated. We'll have more details of this story and more after the break.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Business. My name is Daryl Kwao. Chief Executive of Fairtrade Global, Dr. Iago Yongo, has called on government to invest in improving the livelihoods of cocoa farmers. Reacting to recent concerns about child labor on Ghana's cocoa farms, she said most farmers keep their children on the farms because they cannot afford to take their children to school. The EU has threatened to blacklist Ghana if the issue of child labor is not tackled. Yes, Dr. Yongo speaking to Joy Business.
We look at the causes of child labor. I mean, it's easy for people to say that, oh, there shouldn't be any child labor. But why is there child labor? Child labor is there because of one of the reasons, inequalities in trade. Farmers need better prices, okay? I don't think there is any one family or any parent really who'd rather send their child to go and work in the farm if they can afford to take their child to school. Child labor is about lack of access to education. So we have to look at what are the causes of child labor to be able to reduce it. And so as much as the European Commission is talking about banning products that come into the EU that have child labor or deforestation in their supply chain, they also need to look at what are the prices the farmers are paying. Because in Fairtrade, our big push is for a living income for farmers. And we want to expressly say that a living income is a human right. Just as much there are other aspects of human rights, living income is a human right. And so as we tackle the issue of child labor, let's also tackle the issue of better prices. And I think that is what the governments of Ghana and other governments like Cote d'Ivoire should also articulate and push for better prices. I know the two governments have done a great job, yeah, in terms of introducing the living income differential. I think that's great, and we support them in that intervention. But still a lot more needs to be done by the industry.
Now, Unilever Ghana has launched 2 new variants of its geisha soap, specifically geisha moringa and geisha black soap. These variants are formulated with locally sourced natural ingredients such as cocoa butter, activated charcoal, and moringa oil. Speaking at the launch, Managing Director George Osuansa said these new products are safe and beneficial to all skin types. There's more in the following report.
The new variants are made with natural ingredients such as cocoa butter, activated charcoal, and moringa oil, and come at a time when the Ghanaian consumers' demand and preference for locally sourced and natural-based products is on the rise. Speaking at the launch, the Managing Director of Unilever Ghana PLC, George Owusu-Ansah, said the launch is a manifestation of Unilever Ghana's commitments to Ghanaian households in respect of their unrelenting dedication to meet their everyday needs with brands that help people feel good, look good, and get more out of life.
Stating that the formulation of these 2 new variants, our geisha black soap that Anita so kindly talked about, that comes with cocoa butter, and our geisha moringa oil soap have been inspired by our heritage and our African roots. We are very excited to be adding these variants to our growing list of beauty and skin cleanse solutions available on this market to Ghanaians. that these two variants are safe and are beneficial to all skin types. Our brand Geisha this morning is very proud to add these two variants to its growing portfolio of variants. Variants that give consumers quality, affordable solutions, and choice for their skin care.
The Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, Honorable Michael Otri-Befi, who represented the Sector Minister Alan Trementin, commended Unilever Ghana for its continuous contribution to the Ghanaian economy.
The critical role of Unilever, a global manufacturer of fast-moving consumable goods in our quest for industrial transformation, cannot be overemphasized. COVID-19 has shown that we must build a strong and robust manufacturing sector capable of using available local raw materials to enhance its operations. The recent distortions in the global value chain, coupled with skyrocketing freight charges, as well as exorbitant charges on containers, must propel us to grow our local businesses. As a government, we are committed to building a vibrant business environment that will attract the needed investment from the private sector.
Geisha has a rich history of being Africa's most loved soap on account of the long-lasting benefits it offers to patrons, and this innovation is an addition to its range of enviable variants.
And you can find more business news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. That's it for this segment. Still live on JoyNews desk, and before we go, some members of Parliament are warning Parliament's directive for the scrapping of the car loan scheme for the members from 2025 will overburden the taxpayer. Last night, the House approved a recommendation of its Finance Committee for the discontinuation of the arrangement. The House directed governments to make sure that members of the next Parliament are given fueled, chauffeured and maintained state vehicles like other Article 71 office holders. Members of the Finance Committee, Kezela Tuforsen and Kwame Anyimedu, say that is what the public wants for MPs instead of car loans. But Tamale North MP Alhassan Sohoini says the new arrangement is worse off than the previous one for the public purse. He says Parliament failed to show leadership. He spoke to Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, who joins us via phone. What reasons is the Member of Parliament giving, Joseph? Right, Joseph, can you hear me?
Daniel, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. What reasons did Alhassan Sohoini give for his position?
He makes the point that this new arrangement is something that MPs wouldn't be paying anymore for any bits of the vehicles. They would then have to be treated like ministers or, for that matter, justices of the Supreme Court. Previously, they are giving loans and government pays back portions of the loan for them. Even though that happens in such a manner, it means MPs themselves as leaders bear certain costs when it comes to the transportation bit of the activities. But he makes the point that under the current arrangement, when MPs are traveling to their various constituencies and back, the fuel that gets consumed, the vehicle itself, is all something that the cost is coming on the entire state, and there are 275 of them. And he foresees a situation where, when it comes to the cost to the public purse, this new arrangement is likely to be far more expensive than the old arrangement, where it was a case of car loans and MPs were virtually footing a larger part of the bill.
When is this expected to take effect?
The directive from Parliament is that when it comes to this specific Parliament, it can be done because there's not been adequate budgeting for it. So what MPs did was to approve the $28 million car loan for them, so that then this current Parliament will then still work with the previous arrangement, although government will be paying up to 60% of that particular loan. This arrangement is something that they're expecting to take effect in the 9th Parliament from 2025, and the directive to them is that any emolument committee recommendations going forward, that will spell out how their terms of conditions should actually be, should capture that bit having to do with them being given vehicles.
Thank you so much, Joseph Kakpo, for those updates. And this is where we wrap up today's bulletin of Joy News Desk with me, Daniel Daze. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. For updates on all of our stories and more on that platform. We will be back at midday for Joy News today. See you then. Have a good day.